What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we got a special guest. He is a personal trainer, entrepreneur, business owner, and he currently owns the Ultimate Athlete Bootcamp. That's right, guys. Please help me welcome the one and only, all the way from Dallas, Texas. He's a Super Bowl champ, the Juan Woods. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Anthony? How's it going, Josh? Thank you guys so much for having me today. It's truly an honor to be a part of this podcast. Been checking it out. It's pretty awesome what you guys are doing.
We appreciate that, man. It's definitely an honor to have you on, and looking forward to what we're gonna shoot the shit with today.
Oh yeah, I'm excited, man.
Oh yeah,
always great when we can get another competitor in here, and get the juices flowing a little bit.
Man, gotta love it.
Woo.
Competition fuels greatness, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So how are things going on your end, man? How's everything been for you? Let's start off with the whole coaching side of things, especially with this whole, interesting era that we're living through, and COVID, and the changes that have been happening, especially in the fitness world. How's that impacted you personally, and with your clientele and your business, and how have you been able to shift to make sure that you've kept that going on a positive note?
Well, first of all, when you have something like a global pandemic, it puts everyone into adversity. And, when we're having those speeches and those talks with our athletes, and you have those, young men and young women that are looking around thinking that you're not talking to them. Well, guess what? It's your time now, and everyone is dealing with the same type of adversity. So all of those coaching talks and things that we do is hitting home for everyone. And it's actually made my job a little bit easier because we don't have to go looking for the personal adversities in people's lives. We don't have to really go picking at people to get them to be motivated because everyone's feeling the same heat. Everyone's dealing with the same things. Luckily I'm in Dallas, Texas. So, our state is, is not as, they're a little lenient as far as, locking everything down compared to, Los Angeles and, dealing with some of the things my business partner has to deal with out there. But, like I said, it just kind of brings it home for everyone, and it kind of makes my job a lot easier because people understand immediately what you're trying to hone in on when we're giving our coaches speeches and when we're trying to get them to push to the next level.
Yeah, and that's kind of a difficult thing, right? Is getting those goals set for people, getting them to understand, like, if you don't seek out the adversity that you're going to face, it's going to come find you, and it's probably going to hit you a lot harder than you're going to hit it if you're more proactive with it, right? What are some ways in the past that you've been able to help people establish goals and find that adversity that we all know we need to go out and seek and overcome? And what are some ways that you're kind of doing that now with people that you see might understand that there's some things that they need to change in their life, but don't necessarily know exactly how to pinpoint those?
Well, the first thing, going into any client or any athlete, you got to understand it's not about me. And when I'm dealing with them, I come in with a clean slate, willing and keeping in mind that I want to absorb everything that they're giving me. That's the only way that I can find kinks in their armor or their front. So when you meet someone, they have the projection. And I want to talk a little bit about my 3 Ps. We have perception, projection, and proprioception. When we talk about perception, we can sit next to the same movie and see something completely different. And based off what we see and what we perceive, we project something based on that. And that could be changed. And then when you talk about proprioception, or your body's awareness in space, it's where you actually stand in the whole thing. So when I come across a new client, or even my existing clients, I make sure that I come in with a clean slate so that I can absorb anything, so I can bend when necessary, so that I make sure I can get everything out of them. And if I'm on my game, then I'm able to pinpoint that piece of their life that they're struggling with, bring it to the forefront, and now it's decision-making time. It's gut check time for them. And, they're going to need to rise to the occasion, or, it's going to beat them up.
Mm-hmm. And I love those 3 Ps, man, because people really lose sight of the fact that, their reality is only formed from the way that they actually do perceive, or the way that they do view their interactions with other people, their interactions with their environment, and their interactions internally with themselves, right? Their thought process, the day-to-day things that they're doing. And something that Anthony and I always talk about is holding people more accountable, giving them a lot more authority in their own lives, telling them that they actually do have a lot more control over their destiny than what a lot of people say or are willing to give them credit for.
Yeah, absolutely. The days of fake it till you make it are long gone. So as much as people want to believe that you can just act your way through it and you'll be okay, no, those days are long gone, and life will come and hit you in the mouth really fast. We talk about things that'll take you places you didn't want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. And we're right in the middle of it right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. I definitely agree with the fact that you can smell the shit from a mile away now, especially through social media. You can see the truth, you can see the fakeness, you can see, who's real, who's not, who means what, who doesn't. And I think it's something, like you said, we can see it. We can see it. And if you're not on point, and what I mean by being on point, if you're not true to yourself or if you're not being the real deal, people are going to be able to see that and they're not going to like it. And then that's going to be a loss of opportunity for you in the long run, because people don't want to associate with the fakeness. People don't want to associate with, people who aren't real to themselves or real with other people on another level.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the game you decide to play. You got to know your why. So, if you're doing things because it's in, if you're doing things because, you've seen such and such and who's who do it, then you won't be able to keep it up. But if you're true to yourself and you wake up every morning and you know that you have your mindset set on a certain thing and you have your goals that you're trying to accomplish, it does not matter what the world comes to bring to the surface. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing, because at the end of the night, nobody can die for you.
That's right. That's right.
So, you got to be true to yourself and be ready to put it on the line when it's judgment day.
What are some of the steps that you guide people through in order to help them achieve their own why? I mean, Anthony and I both came up the ranks at Equinox, where we got our start of our career, really, where we started to learn, like, digging deeper into someone's true motivation behind their goals, behind their actions. So how do you walk them through that process of really finding the real reason behind their mindset, behind the things that they want to accomplish?
Well, first of all, I don't want to get outside of my wheelhouse. And what I mean by that is I'm not a psychologist. I can't look at someone and tell them that you bullshitting me. I know when you're bullshitting me, but if they're giving me everything, then, and it's truly their all, it will show. But all I can do is show them and give them the gift that I've learned and that I give myself every single day, and that's the mindset of an athlete. An athlete, or should I say an ultimate athlete. That's why we created, Michael Myers and I created our business, Ultimate Athlete Bootcamp, because we can give you the mindset of an athlete. And that mindset is the ability to identify, assess, process, and overcome adversity. Most people, they won't know what their why is. It'll take them years before they figure out what their why is. And I can't sit there and be like, yo, this is your why. Mm-hmm. Do this. They don't know. I don't know. But when you develop a certain mindset, you're able to sort through all the bullshit, and you will find your why, or your why will hit you right dead in your mouth, and you won't have any choice but to face it head on. And before you know it, you look up and you live in your purpose. You're like, hey, this is what it's all about. But it all takes that mindset shift. It all takes, being able to get outside of your comfort zone, learn a little bit about yourself, and then see if you can apply it or project it. So, back to those 3 Ps, you can come in, but only you will ultimately know what your why is when you come face to face with it.
100%.
You can fake it all day, but when it hits you, then hey, look, I'm in the right place.
Yep, 100%. I agree with that, off the bat. So you mentioned something, not athlete mindset, but ultimate athlete mindset. What are the tools that you teach through your program to your clients so that way they can obtain that level of mindset that you guys preach and live by every single day? How do you guys bring that into existence for your clients? What do those tools look like?
So, it's first understanding what it is. By definition, an athlete is an individual who is proficient in sports and physical activity. Well, everybody don't have a game, on Sunday. Let's just call it what it is. Mama Woods ain't got a game on Sunday, but Mama Woods is going to face adversity. So we teach them how to identify, one, know what's coming at you. Hey, that's going to change something in my life. Hey, we got a global pandemic coming. I need to be able to identify that. Identify, assess. Okay, now that I know what's coming, how is it going to hit me? I have to assess in what angle is it going to disrupt my life? What angle is it going to give me an opportunity? But I won't know that unless I'm able to assess it, processing it. Okay, which is the next step we give people, the ability to process. Hey, look, I'm in the shit. We're here now. Now what? Am I going to sink? Am I going to fall to my deepest of lows and eat my sorrows away, drink my sorrows away? Or am I going to process it and figure out the last part of it, and that's overcoming? Once you're able to identify, assess, and process, baby, it's time to overcome. And if you see it coming and you know how it's going to affect you and you know the options that you have, you can conquer anything in life that this world or anything that is thrown at you, Lord willing.
So where do you feel that most of the clients that you've worked with, where do you feel that they usually get stuck in? What's that common area do you feel that they have the struggle with the most, especially when it comes to getting to that level mindset? Where do you feel that threshold is?
Self-sabotage. I feel that threshold comes in a self-sabotaging phase because everyone seems to be on a roll. You seem to be doing good, and then you shoot yourself in the foot. A lot of the clients have to get out of your own way in order to be successful. And a lot of times that, they fake it till they make it. So they have this facade up. But one thing you can't fake is fatigue. Mm-hmm. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. So when you're dirt dog ass tired and you got a coach on your ass letting you know about all of the things, hey, look, it's not about just going through the motions. There's a certain way things need to be done. We demand a certain thing from you, and we're only going to take this. We're going to set that bar, come to that bar. We're not going to lower it. So once they hit that fatigue point and they start getting tired, then all of the coaching genre that we're giving them is starting to sink in and starting to hit home. And that's when the mindset shifts, when they understand that, hey, man, I'm in the shit. I got a decision to make. I can dig my way out of it or I can drown in it. And ultimately, that's where the biggest breakthroughs happen, is in the midst of fatigue.
Are there certain characteristics with the people that you work with that, you really see separate those people who are willing to, claw their way out of any situation and those people who fold?
Absolutely. You see confidence. You see the can-do attitude change. You see the, I deserve this. I worked hard for this. This is mine. They claim it. When you see people who start to claim things that are theirs instead of sitting in the back taking whatever's thrown to them, you see people who really step up to the forefront and they own it. They claim it. It is mine, and they go after it. And when that mindset shifts, you see it, you know it, and you know you got your player. You know they're becoming that athlete. They're becoming to hone in that mindset that we try and push into them, day in and day out.
Love that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think Anthony and I both agree, with the people that we've worked with, it really is those people who are action takers, who go out there and seek that uncomfortability, that adversity, that really are the people that end up succeeding because they already expect that that the unknown is going to be thrown their way. Yep. Right? They don't know necessarily what it is, but they know something's coming around the corner. And I think if you can be proactive and you can be prepared, not necessarily to face that adversity head on, but at least have some of the tools necessary to at least start that process. I think it is huge. And you're right. That's really where us coaches come into play. It's our job to be able to provide or give understanding about the tools and resources that are available to our clients so that we can set them up for success long-term.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about identifying as part of being that ultimate athlete, it's not only identifying the problems, okay? Identifying the problem is the first thing. The second is also identifying what tools you got in your toolbox. What weapons do you have? Mm-hmm. What can you use to fight back with? So knowing that about yourself doing that soul searching, which you can only find when you're tired, when you're in fatigue, when you're stressed, you know, when you have to reevaluate the course that you're going and understand the tangibles that you have available to you that you can use in your advantage. Because you got to understand, we're all individuals. There's no one like us, you know. So with that comes individual talents or attributes. You know, I like to talk about Madden. I talk about people all the time, you know, hey, they might run $1 million route, but got $5 hands, you know, or they might have speed out of this world, but their gaming IQ is boo-boo. And, you know, those things show. But if you're able to play with speed to your advantage, and you know that that's what, you know, your wheelhouse is all about, then you can use it to your advantage and be very successful.
Yeah, I just went in Madden and created the 99 overall player, you know, and throttled everybody. Like,
yeah, you know, just
like Mike Vick in Madden 07, you know, just scramble out, you know, and then you have the option to dump it off to work done or just fucking take it 70 yards to the house.
Best Madden in history.
Oh, man, triple option. I remember old Madden 94. Believe it, Madden 94, 95, where all you had to do was hurdle. Hurdle your ass off, and they just couldn't tackle you. The whole team around you, and you just hurdle and you hurdle your ass all the way to the end zone.
Now everything is like, okay, you have to touch it on the green bar. If you miss the green, it gets red. You missed the cut. Now
listen, I gave up on Madden once they started making you run the 40 in the career mode. I was like, I can't fucking figure out both of these joysticks.
You talk about these young kids nowadays. You know, I had an opportunity to watch some young kids play the game. They use all their fingers. I mean, I just remember when we was working thumbs only. These jokers got they got their pinky around here moving the stick around. I'm like, oh man, I can't do nothing with that.
Well, there's real money involved in that shit now, man.
Right?
It's legit like playing in the NFL. You know, you can get real good at Madden.
I was actually gonna ask you that. You know, what's your whole take? I keep hearing about, especially in the athlete world, in the youth, there's actually less kids coming up or showing up, you know, becoming dominant football players, backup basketball players, baseball players, because they're so tied in at home playing video games, and they've actually seen a huge drop rate in high schools of kids in sports, and also too the type of kids that are playing the sports, like not as strong, not as fast, you know, not as confident, like a huge downgrade. What is your thoughts on that? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, you know, I got to see those statistics. Because, you know, I actually think the opposite. You know, players gonna make plays. Players will play. Those gamers, those kids, they out there whipping up on the little nerds who want to stay in and play video games all day. You know, granted, you know, we like to play the games and stuff too, but the guys who can actually go on the field and make it happen, they want to get up off them sticks and go outside in the street and get it done. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't want to sit back behind the control. Yeah, we know we making a lot of money in those things, and you're seeing a huge uproar. That's because a lot of those guys they're getting their opportunity who would get their butt whooped on the field for real. So they take it inside and get behind the sticks, put the headset on, talk some cash. Yeah, you know. So yeah, that's it. But those guys, I'm seeing these kids. You know, I'm having an opportunity to train with some kids and stuff now, and hey, they're gamers. And they have the opportunity to get high-level training at a younger age. You know, when I was, you know, I didn't get my first taste of, like, training until, you know, I was around 12 years old when my brother finally got us out in the front yard and got us going, actually running box drills and four-cone drills and stuff like that. You know, but prior, I had no idea how much knowledge was left on the table back in the day, until I look at these kids now and they have the opportunity to train with me or train with some of the other amazing coaches that I know. And I'm like, man, if we would have had this kind of coach and coaching and tutelage at the age that we were at, that was aside from, you know, relatives, you know, aside from big brother or older sister, you know, getting them out there where you still got a little bit of love factor, or, you know, you got dad out there, you know, being coach dad. But at the end of the day, you know, dad has to try and turn it off, or there's a fork or in that relationship, because dads a lot of the time do not have the ability to turn it off at the dinner table. So, you know, they're on your butt out there on the field all day, and you come in and you guys say, hey, I'm watching it. Most of the kids that I coach, their dads coach the team. Mm-hmm. And when I'm on their butt and when I'm on them demanding greatness, they love me, because that's what they want to do. And I tell them, hey, look, you be dad. Let me be coach.
I was just thinking about
when you need to.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
I mean, that was, I was wrapping that up, you know, so that's what I deal with a lot. And I love that. I understand that. And I try and make sure to let those parents know the role that I want to play so that they can play the role that's most important. That's dad or mom. Yeah,
I mean, it's so true, right? And you've kind of seen, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with like the overall societal, you know, cancel culture that we're kind of in, where these and my mom was like, this was annoying as shit when I was a kid playing baseball. Like, she knew nothing about baseball. To this day, I played football since the time I was like 7 until, I mean, I was part of organized football all the way through grad school, and I was like 24, 23. She couldn't tell you a single position I played, but I've never found a person more screaming louder, you know, about my play than her. I'm like, you don't even know what position I played, and I played the same position for 12 years, you know, and I couldn't agree with you more, right? Like when I used to coach my sister's teams or you know, youth football or youth softball or basketball, whatever, you'd always get those parents in the crowd just screaming at you. It's like, you know, you be the dad, you be the mom, let me be the coach. Like we need our boundaries, we need our roles, and you know, I'm happy to hear that these kids have people like you know, coaches like you that can kind of instill that sort of emphasis on, like, you know, there should be a separation between your parents and who your coach is, or at least the roles that they need to play at specific times.
You know, absolutely. And a lot of times parents don't want their kids to be soft, but they don't want to get on them either.
Yep.
Because it's tough. It's tough to play both roles, you know, and then you have the coddling parents, you know, who think the coach is against their kid and not the fact that their kid is soft. And I'll tell you, hey, look, Mama Jean, your son is soft. You know, stop feeding him malto meal. Give him some steel cut oats in there. Let's get it going.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely was one of those kids to a certain extent. I was like, and I knew I was like, you know, I'm emotionally a little sensitive, or I used to be very emotionally sensitive as a kid. And I used to tell my mom, like, listen, if I get, you know, flustered, like, just let me be flustered. Like, I know what it is. You know, I don't need you in my ear, in the coach's ear, like, thinking that it's his fault. Like, I struck out. You know, I got fucking pancaked. You know, it wasn't, right. I'm pissed off about that. I'm not pissed off that he did it, you know, or that it's not his fault that he pulled me from the game. I got my ass beat. You know, I deserve to be pulled from the game.
Right.
You know?
So you got two parents. You got two parents. You got parents out there yelling, "Get up off the ground! Yeah. Get up off the ground!" And then you got the parent yelling, "Them boys are too big out there." How old are those kids? Yeah. You know,
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
So it's like, what you mean? They all went through the same test. The big jokers got the stripe on their helmet. You know they can't run the ball.
Yeah.
It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, now they got guys out here 8th grade, 6'4", 200, and it's like,
oh, it's insane. Some of these linemen, like 6'8", 340. I'm like, insane. How old are you? They're like, oh, this kid's 13. I'm like, this is
no, and you got these linemen that are fast as shit.
Yeah,
you know, they'll catch you.
I mean, the game has changed, and even to your point about training, you know, it's like when we all played ball, it was like, you're right, like you go run some miles with like a sweatshirt on if you had to lose some weight, you know, or you'd be eating like 7 meals. You do push-ups, you do bench press, you would squat and deadlift, but that was about it. You know, the speed work, maybe you throw down a ladder and do some like footwork. There was no cone, you know, we weren't doing cone drills. You know, we weren't we weren't doing metabolic conditioning.
Or just kill yourselves. Go eat, kill yourselves.
My football coach used to tell me, like, okay, what you guys are going to do for your summer. I grew up in like in bumblefuck upstate New York. My coach used to literally say, like, okay, for your summer program, like, you're going to go work on the farm, bale hay, like do heavy labor, work construction, like dig trenches. That's the shit you guys are going to do. Like, I don't need to train you guys. You guys just go throw around some 40-pound hay bales for a while, and you guys will get strong as fuck.
But Dejuan, let me ask you something.
That's exactly how it happened with me.
Would you say that even then, like, not having all of the components that we have today accessible to these young athletes, would you say, as far as that, obviously it's a huge positive, would you say that there's still a positive from the era you came up growing up that these kids don't have, that you feel they should learn or understand, that you had, that you know is something they're missing, and it's something that is probably pretty hard to replicate?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not from the individuals involved. It's from the system. Okay. It's from the Constellation 9th place trophy that these kids get. You know, they ain't won a game all year, and they get ribbons and trophies at the end. You know, they get a pizza party still. You know, and then, you know, they still get snacks after the games when they get blew out 60-0. You know, it's the coddle mentality of the people not involved, not necessarily the coaches. And then it's the regulation that they put the coaches under as well, too. You know, don't be too hard on them. You know, this is just peewee football. When back then it was more along the lines of, this is your only way out, son. You know, I had an opportunity to go play Division I college football on a full-ride scholarship. Prior to that, how I was going to get to college, how my parents was going to put 6 kids through college was not even a, you know, question. We knew that we was going to either have a lot of debt, we was going to be in the military, or we was going to come out of high school working our butt off, one of the two. But, you know, paying for 6 kids to get through college we wasn't going to have a shot. But, you know, my parents would have made do what they could, but at the same time, to have the ability to, you know, learn a skill set, learn a craft, and it gives me opportunities that will open doors that I would never dreamed of being open, to be able to go play big time Division I college football and then have opportunity to go to the NFL. You know, these are things that once we realized that they were an actual, you know, it's possible, then you talk about emptying the tank to try and make it happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and a lot of times, you know, it's being still pushed to the forefront, but in today's society, man, you can make it to the pros in just about anything, especially with social media. Hell, you can just have 200,000 followers and you consider to be the man, and don't let you get a blue check. You can get a blue check for doing anything. Yeah, which quote unquote validates you as a pro. So I mean, it has everything to do with the society that we live in now, and which is a lot different than the way things were in the past.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think like the biggest theme that I've come across really is that there aren't enough people just getting knocked down on their ass consistently, right? Whether it be the praise from people on social media, you know, whether it be, you know, coming from your parents, your friends, your family, whoever it is, right? Your significant other, like there's not enough people and people aren't going through enough experiences where they're telling you like, you know, you're not good enough right now to where you want to be. You know, too many people are like, oh, you're doing fine. You're doing just fine. You know, like even with us, where we want to take this podcast, you know, people are like, oh, well, you guys are killing it. It's like, we're not anywhere near where we want to be. You know, like, well, I want you to be. Person on. You had this person. Like, but no. I want you to be fucking honest. I want you, like, I don't want you to start with 3 good things I did. I don't need you to coddle me. I want you to tell me the 3 things I can improve on. And then if I feel like shit, then you can see that, then, you know, give me a little bit of praise so I don't jump off a building. But start with the things I can improve on, because those are the things that really matter to me. You know, I'm
absolutely, like, back to your point, like they're falling on their ass, but they have a fan club who think they shit don't stink. So you have the haters and the fan club. So it goes back to my 3 Ps. You have perception and then projection. If, you know, you get to the point where you're sucking ass and people are still praising you for it, then it's like, oh, you know, I guess I ain't doing that bad. When the harsh reality is, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. So you can use the 3 Ps to your advantage, or they can be to your disadvantage. Right. But if you are able to use them correctly, then you can, you know, sift through all of the nonsense and have a true soul search and heart to heart with yourself. Or you can listen to the people who are coddling and who are still pushing you along, thinking you the greatest thing since sliced bread, until reality really, really hits you in the mouth. Yeah. And then, you know, it's soul searching time. Then I hope you're ready.
Yeah, and I mean, we tend to knock social media a lot on this on our podcast, but I mean, it is how we make our money, so there are some good benefits to it as well. But I think the big thing is that we just get put in these like silos, these echo chambers, and even if we think we are doing well, and you might be, you know, like I find myself doing this all the time, where I'm like scrolling through my Instagram or scrolling through social media, I'm like, fuck, all of these trainers are doing so much better than I am, and I'm like. Then I take a step back, or I talk to this guy, and he's like, dude, you realize, like, you're only engaging with those people. So the only people that you're seeing is like this 1% of the population of trainers or coaches or people who work in your field or do whatever, and you're only seeing the most successful of those people. So then you start comparing yourself to them, and you're like, oh fuck, like I don't have 50,000 followers, or I'm not getting 1,000 likes on my photos. Like I must not be as good of a coach. But then you meet some person from, you know, where you're from in the middle of Oklahoma, and they're like, man, I can't believe you have 18,000 followers, 19,000 followers. And you're like, oh, fuck, I guess I am doing a lot better than, you know, the other probably 300 million Americans who aren't on social media as much as we all are. Right. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, perception is your reality. Yep. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Take it how it is. But there's always going to be someone better. Yeah. And there's always going to be someone worse. And where you fit in, your proprioception, where you fit in. You know, that's right. You know, who really knows? But what you project, you know, hey, like you say, I know a lot of people coming out of Oklahoma who still in Oklahoma, ain't left out of Oklahoma, you know, and you go back and you see them, and it's like, oh man, yep, same old thing, huh?
It's the same same thing down here in Miami. You know, I come from an area of Miami called Kendall, and they call it the Kendall Bubble. You know, everybody who stays in Kendall lives their whole life in Kendall.
Well, they go to Miami-Dade Community College, and then they go back to Kendall.
Oh, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they'll commute.
They'll commute, but they'll stay living in. But it's funny because it's so true, man, and I think it's just one of those things where, you know, first of all, you got to get yourself out there. You got to put yourself out into the unknown. You got to get a taste of what it is to fail. You got to get multiple tastes of making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, getting yourself up, and applying what you learned. And then, again, you know, creating the reality you want to live for yourself, you know, by putting in that hard work and action. Now, with that being said, I wanted to ask you, what are the things that you instill into your young athletes so that way they can get themselves out of where they're at, so that way they can change their lives? And also on top of that, where you're able to push them to a point in a way to show them, you know, kind of what that experience you had when you were young, of how coaches coached you, in the sense of like what they told you, how they told you. What are some of the things you tell your students and now your clients that you can get away with? Because I know you mentioned, you know, yes, you have to be careful, the regulations, all that shit, but how do you do it? How do you do it, and how do you get your message across to these kids and still have that hard, firm, like, this is what you got to know, this is what you need to understand?
Well, you know, first of all, Ultimate Athlete Bootcamp LLC is our business. You know, it is, you can't fire me. So I'm going to push back. So it's a matter of, you know, what that athlete needs to hear. I'm always going to push back. I was coach, and you're never as good as you think you are, you're never as bad as you think you are, is one of my coaches, Todd Monken, who said that to me at Oklahoma State, and I had the opportunity to be coached by him at Jacksonville. He said the same exact thing, and he's absolutely right. You know, you can go out there and have 10 catches for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he'll pull up 8 plays of you loafing. And it's like, man, he's absolutely right. So a lot of times you can't let these kids get too far ahead of themselves. And then at the same time, you can't let them get too down on themselves either. So you have to, you have to play that line. And you know, I'm from a family of athletes, and my brother's coach as well too. My older brother's head coach at Enon High School, and my younger brother's assistant coach at John Marshall High School. And, you know, I talked to them, and my brother told me, you know, he's like, hey, look, man, when you're coaching, and I asked him, I was like, hey, what is one of the most important things that you would, you know, advice that you would give another coach? Because we have coaches coming up in Ultimate Athlete Bootcamp, and I want to be able to give them those jewels. And he says, hey, look, praise the kids, praise them as much as you can, praise them as hard as you can, so that when it's time for you to get on their ass, you tear into their ass. Because it'll level out in the long run. And some of these kids will go on and it'll be easy for them. A lot of them, it will be tough for them. But if they can realize that they have all the tangibles and the skill sets to be successful in whatever situation that they're put in, then the majority of them will come out successful. I've seen my athletes come from 2 left feet to tap dancing on film. And those are the things that really brings me joy and really allows me to show up day in and day out and have an opportunity to pour into these kids. I know my time is long gone as it pertains to playing on Sundays, but if I can instill, one or two jewels in these kids that will allow them to take to the next level, that will propel them to the next level with the skill set that they have, I found that gives me the most excitement, the most joy, and I know I've done my job as coach.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly, I can never say that word, believe that, there is a very impactful place in every child's life for some type of coach, right? Whether it be in music,
Absolutely.
whether it be in athletics, whether it be, in language or whatever you want to do. Like, some of the biggest takeaways I've ever had in my life, up until this point, 29 years into it, has come from my high school coaches. Like the number one thing that I will never forget is my offensive line coach sitting me down one day when I was thinking about, whether I was going to play Division II or Division III college football, what I was going to do, how I wanted to take like my last couple of years of high school football. And, he just sat me down. He's like, listen, Josh, like no matter what you do in life, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And to this day, it's my favorite saying because it's so true. Like there is no status quo.
That's right.
No matter what, even when I am down and I have a shit week or I have a shit month, I think like, okay, you got worse, now it's time to start getting better, because you're either going to keep getting worse. You're going to either keep that snowball effect is huge, right? It's not linear. It doesn't just happen. It's like 2, 4, 10x as you start to kind of go down that path of decline. And same thing on the inverse, right? As you improve, you start to get remarkably better at making those jumps in improvement, up to a certain extent. And then you start to plateau, obviously. But, I never forget, like, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So which path are you going to take?
And you probably still call him coach.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and that's the coach is a term, is the highest praise you can give an individual, if you ask me. Coach. Because, if guys, the most the most surprising thing when I got to the NFL is when I seen other NFL players call coach by their first name. Hey, Todd. I'm like, oh Lord, what is going on? Hey man, what's going on? So but I understood that, coach is the highest praise. If you have been into a program of some sort and you have been impacted by someone of that caliber to this day, you call them coach. And hey, listen, if you any guys out there, trainers, or if your clients are calling you coach, understand the amount of respect, okay? Understand the amount of respect and amount of, just overall, they will follow you off a cliff if you told them it would help make them better. So take that title and hold it close to your chest because it's so important. It is so important. And as someone's coach, you can get them to do things that they couldn't imagine doing themselves. And that's what our job is, getting people out of their comfort zone to find their own greatness in the life they have today.
Yeah. And, kind of going back to what you were talking about perspective, the coaches that I had when I was in high school and in middle school and even before that, the coaches that I thought were the biggest dicks, I was like, man, this guy's just a huge asshole. Now that I'm an adult, I'm like, fuck, that guy helped out a lot. I'm like, I wish I would have taken what he said a little more seriously back then, as because now it's starting to make a lot more sense. And like, maybe I thought he wasn't such a nice guy to me back then, but now looking back on it, he helped me out here. He stuck up for me in this position when some of my other teammates were kind of, getting down on me. It's like, now when I go back home and I see that person, I have so much more respect for them as an adult than I did as their athlete, even, because I can now look back on it and I can really process all that stuff. All of those pieces of advice, all of the hard conversations that he had to have with us, and go like, I respect you now as a 29-year-old man than I ever did as like a 17-year-old boy. And I think that's something in itself is so powerful that, you as a coach can be able to do that for your athletes. And, 5, 10, 15 years from now, when they come back and see you, they're gonna be like, yo man, like, I've been I've been thinking about the stuff that you said to me 10 years ago. And, now it's starting to really make an impact in my life. And that's huge.
Yeah. And I want to throw one more thing in there. I think it's, going back to what you're saying, like coach, that word being such a high standard when somebody calls you a coach, like being one of the biggest praises that you can get from somebody. And it's so true because when you hear from the people who are just brush it under the rug, like, oh, you're a coach? Is that all you do? Like, you're like, what?
You're like, yeah, I just influence 12-year-olds.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, not a big deal.
And that's one of the most powerful and influential positions that you can have as a true influencer.
For sure.
Because you're really influencing and impacting, children, adults, whatever it is that you coach, to a really high level, mind, body, soul, and you're really impacting them with their life, not just with a certain area, but like I said, their whole entire life, and you're causing some really big changes. And that's why when you hear that client that does call you coach, you're like, whoa. When they switch from calling you from your name and they start calling you coach, you're like, oh shit, okay, something happened here. All right, this person, right. All right, they see me on another level. They feel they're definitely getting results. They're feeling a change and shift in their life because they called me coach. And like you said, from there on, they continue calling you coach. I've had some of my clients, I don't really do personal training anymore, but when they hit me up, say hello, they're like, hey, coach, how's it going? How you been, coach? And it's so funny because, when you actually sit back and think about that, you forget about the impact that you've done for these people. And that's why they continue to call that. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Devoted my life to it.
So where do you see things kind of heading with youth sports, with, more organized high school sports, heading into 2021 and kind of, the next couple of years? Because I think it's going to be really interesting with some of the things that they need to do with travel restrictions to make sure that, obviously COVID doesn't really affect children as much as it affects older populations, but they can still carry and spread it. And just where do you kind of see the popularity of some of these younger athletic groups going?
As long as the NFL and NBA is cashing checks like they cashing, we're not gonna have to worry about youth sports. So it's gonna find its place. It's gonna find its lane. As long as the life-changing opportunities come through those organizations, then these kids are going to keep playing. And they're going to keep trying to get involved any way that they can. Because you're talking about life-changing opportunities that these kids get from shooting and running, throwing and catching the ball. So, as long as that's it, I don't see much change. Yeah, there will be some changes, but as long as ESPN is showing these guys cashing these checks, the game is going to continue to go on.
So now
and
that
if it don't, you're going to see an uproar from society.
No, I agree.
Even from just fans and spectators and fantasy football teams, leagues, and all of these things. Your weekend warriors and their pickup basketball games at the YMCA. Everybody will be affected by them trying to take sports out of the realm. You're talking about sports in the military. Two different kind of mindsets: an athlete's mindset and a military mindset. Both have to be broken and molded. And then you can tell an athlete and you can tell someone who's in the military just by looking at them, just by watching their demeanor, just from watching you. Like, look, you either was in the military or you was an athlete, one of the two.
Yeah.
That normally is determined based on their stature.
Exactly, yeah.
They're built like a brick shit house. You probably was an athlete, huh? If you can have a little, but they point and they're on there. You probably was in the military, one of the two. So, as long as they keep casting checks.
Spot on.
Yeah, if I see them with a buzz cut and no crease in their bed sheet, I'm like, all right, you definitely. What branch were you in?
Absolutely.
So now that we're on the NFL topic, I want to kind of dive in something we kind of spoke briefly off podcast, off the recording. I would love to dive into a little bit into that Super Bowl year that you guys were heading to with the New Orleans Saints. Kind of that experience. And diving a little bit deep into that, if you don't mind.
Well, man, you talk about one of the worst / best experiences, I've had in my lifetime today. got an opportunity to go into New Orleans and be a part of that football team. But, my journey wasn't at all what I expected it to be, wasn't at all ended the way that I thought it would end. I had a lot of, upside going into that organization because they did a lot of things that played to my favor. And, I was brought over from one of the coaches who used to coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as soon as I hit the waivers, they picked me up immediately. I wasn't on, wasn't out of a job for long. But I had an unfortunate in-game injury where I injured my spine, nearly paralyzed myself from the neck down. Now, at that time, I knew that it was the end of my career. After the force specialist and the argument with my parents about it, I knew, to stop wasting money on going to see people who telling you the same thing. And one of the issues was the only person that was kind of telling me something different was a team doctor. And I didn't really think much of that until I kind of got through the process a little bit more. And I understood that, it's a business and you got salary cap and the more guys you can clear up and get up out of there, the more people you can bring in to help the organization. So when, I was, diagnosed with my spinal cord injury and, was put on injury reserve and, I was requested to go home in the beginning of the season. And I was denied that and had to go to the training room twice a day, 6 days a week in order to go through my treatment. And if I was late, I was fined. If I missed a day, I was fined. We're talking about $1,800, big, large sums of money for missing a treatment session to do, things, I understand. I do those same exercises now in order to try and micromanage my spinal cord injury without having the surgery that, they said they wanted me to have. And the surgery, had a 75% failure rating at the time. So, that wasn't that those numbers wasn't in my favor. So I did not want to get up under the knife. I found out about failed spinal surgery syndrome. And that's basically when you have 2 or more spinal surgeries and you're still in pain. They just, hey, you got FSS, failed spinal surgery syndrome. So it's like, okay, take that and live the rest of your life with it. So, after staying up there the entire year, being in Kenner, Louisiana is where I actually live. The facility was in Metairie. I lived in Kenner about 15, 20 minutes out and showing up to the facility every single day. And then didn't want to go to any of the games. I knew my career was over. I was not in a happy place. I was alone. Only the team that I knew in Louisiana at that time, and they were on a completely different schedule as me because I was injured and they were practicing and doing meetings and doing all these things that I didn't have an opportunity to do. So it was a lot of downtime and not to mention the opioids that was prescribed to me every Wednesday. I'll go in and give me a new batch and, just taking that, that blow to my mental, my physical, my emotional, and just really driving me down. You're talking about a kid who I did no drugs. My anti-drug was football. It was sports. So I wouldn't, no recreational drugs, no anything. And I found myself behind that opioid bottle and it came from a safe place. It came from, to me, a team, an NFL team organization, that was a safe place. I never thought that, I would be prescribed something that would, like I said earlier, take me places I didn't want to go, keep me longer than I wanted to stay. And sitting through that entire process for that entire year. And then, hey, we went to the NFC Championship, got an opportunity to play against the Minnesota Vikings. And I was never, I haven't seen Brent Favre play. And I was like, hey, this might be the last time I get to see Brent Favre play. He's winding on down. I want to go see Brent Favre play. And we had an opportunity to beat him. So we're talking about winning that game. I'm on the field, confetti, everything fine. Oh, this is amazing. We're going to the Super Bowl. And then next week, getting a letter in my locker room that was actually separate from the locker room that the entire team was. I was in a locker room that was across the way, only me in there, across the way. And I go in, I get this letter, have a meeting with the coach. I go in and see the coach. He said, hey, look, we're going to fly you home. And I'm like, why? And they're like, owner's discretion. I'm like, owner's discretion? Which owner? Like, what's going on? Who is this? Thomas Benson. So I've never had a man-to-man conversation with Thomas Benson. I never had an opportunity to sit down with him while he passed judgment on my life, and I just sacrificed myself for a team. So I went in, I asked Coach Payton, I'm like, hey, look, I'm not going to the Super Bowl. If y'all win, will I get a ring? No, probably not. I'm like, why not? On the discretion. The secretary gets a ring. She ain't caught a touchdown pass all year.
Yeah, janitors get rings.
The training staff. Like they're getting rings. How come I don't get a ring and I sacrifice my body for this organization? Not even, this is before I knew that I would be dealing with a 7-year opioid addiction and still dealing with the pain till this day. Okay, so getting flown home and then watching the Super Bowl and watching us win from Oklahoma at the time, calling my agents, trying to see what it is that we could do. Like, hey, what's going to happen? And the only answer that I got was owner's discretion. I actually had an opportunity to go back for the 10-year anniversary. They flew me back, and that was just as disheartening as, the experience itself. And, I'm not a complainer. It was just as disheartening. I accepted the opportunity to go in there, got to see some of my guys, some of the players that was on injury reserve the same year that I was, like Reggie Bush. We had an opportunity to get to know each other in the training room because he blew his knee out that year as well, too. So
remember that.
We got to hang out. I got to meet Kim Kardashian. It was pretty awesome.
I forgot he dated her. Oh, my God. I forgot he dated her. That's hilarious.
Hang out with him at the club the whole little 9 yards. So there was perks. But ultimately, it was a downhill spiral that took me 10 plus years to kind of get a grasp on it, for me to find, who I was once again outside of, football. But still having to answer that question, even today on this podcast, having to say it once again. I was a part of the New Orleans Saints 2009 Super Bowl championship team, but don't have a ring. And I have typed up a letter to send to Miss Benson, but man, I just haven't had, you talk about me coaching other people, but needing to coach myself into setting myself up for yet another letdown. I have this letter that kind of details my experience since I left that organization, but I'm too much, man, it is too much to send it off to Miss Benson to maybe get another no. Mickey Loomis, I walk into the practice facility, I see the big banner of the Super Bowl team, and my name's not on there. While we're doing that, Coach Payton is reading the names off of the Super Bowl team. He gets to my name, and he goes on to the next name because he doesn't even realize that I'm there. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So you're talking about making it to your childhood dream and then having such a sour taste in your mouth for the experience, but thankful for the experience. Understand that those experiences help mold you into the player, into the man that you are today, and give you the opportunity to tell kids, every child that I train who find out that I was part of that New Orleans Saints team, ask the same question. Every parent that Googles me when they're trying to figure out whether or not they want to want their child to train with me, I have to answer that same question. 11 years removed. Every morning I wake up in pain. Every night I go to sleep in pain. I do what I can. And being a coach and trainer wasn't something that I had any aspiration of being prior. Yeah, I love to coach and was coaching football, but my goal going into college was to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. And now, after learning about the pharmaceutical industry and big pharma, I abandoned that quickly after being a victim of big pharma and the pharmaceutical industry. So now my passion has completely shifted, became more holistic in my approach of pain management and educating myself and learning the body so that I can live the quality of life, just a smidget of the quality of life a normal an able-bodied person would be able to live, but also keeping the hindsight to understand that there are people out here with conditions way worse than mine, with grins on their face from ear to ear, and I gotta understand that, come on, Woods, you lucky. You're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. Keep pushing, keep getting better, because if you can change and impact somebody's life, anybody's life, just one person's life, then I feel like it's worth the cost of mine. The Lord told us you got to be of service. And if you be of service, man, you'll find joy and happiness in whatever it is that you do. And that's what pushes me to continue being the coach that I am and trying to be that impact in people's life. And one day I'll get enough guts to send that letter off to Miss Benson, and I hope she reads it, and I hope she has the opportunity to maybe see this, or I don't know what's going to hope this might lead to something, but I'll have enough guts to do it. But rejection, no one likes rejection. And I've been rejected from that organization so many times. And it's just like, man, why would I set myself up for something to receive another no when I know that I feel like I'm well-deserved due to the fact that I sacrificed myself for that organization, and would do it again if I had the opportunity, because I'm an athlete through and through. Identify, assess, process, overcome adversity.
Yeah, there you go, man. I mean, listen, if you keep putting good things out in the world, eventually, hopefully, good things like that will come back to you, and you'll be, rewarded for the work you put in.
Absolutely. And it's not about, it's about the hardware.
Right.
But it's not about the hardware as far as me walking around, yeah, I'm a Super Bowl. Look, you can Wikipedia me and Google me and see that I'm a Super Bowl champ. It's not about that. It's about when I have a son or daughter who starts smelling their pee, and they start looking at their daddy as a has-been and trying to think daddy ain't done nothing. I have something to pass down now. I have championship rings. I've won a championship at every level, 2-time high school state champion, in football. I have 4 bowl championship rings with Oklahoma State. Me and my brothers have 25 championship rings between the three of us, and they're in the safe at the crib. We don't ever even bring them out. So it's not about
who keeps them? Mom and dad?
Mom and dad
keeps them? Mom and dad.
Mama ain't gonna let Mama Woods ain't gonna let them out the house. My brother, when he has to go he does motivational speaking. Donovan Woods, he does motivational speaking. He likes to take his Super Bowl ring around, and the first thing he does is he passes it around the crowd. And, he says, if you don't take anything out of what I say today, at least you get to see a Super Bowl ring. And that's an awesome piece, because when you're in Oklahoma, not that many people get an opportunity to see a Super Bowl ring, just for the simple fact that we don't have a NFL football team in Oklahoma. We have OU, OSU football, Division I. And we have Tulsa as well too. So, when you're talking about just having that keepsake, that piece, that trophy that kind of lets you know that your sacrifices wasn't for nothing.
Yeah.
Although you have the experiences, but you have something that you can pass down from generation to generation that would maybe light a fire in the ass of my great grandson that I might not ever meet, but he will know who DeJuan Woods was long after I'm gone.
Well, and even just hearing that part right there, right, where you say, like, I want to make an impact in someone else's, I want this to be something that someone else can use as a catalyst for their own life, and just hearing that whole story, right? I mean, it seems like there's, really 4 different aspects of that could have really put you into, a place that you weren't going to be able to dig yourself out of. And a lot of people wouldn't be able to dig themselves out of, severe spinal injury like you had, losing their identity as like a professional athlete, or like if we lost our career, right? Like being able to come back from that. And then on top of that, like an opioid addiction, something that is rampant throughout, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people's lives here in America, man. And, Florida's no victim of that themselves, being the giant pill mill that it was back in the day, but just to hear your story and hear your character and how humble you really are, and the adversity that you've had to overcome, man, is such an inspiration to me, to I'm sure Anthony as well, and it's going to be to all of our listeners. So, I know that we're hitting an hour here, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I personally just want to say thank you for coming on here and sharing that story. Definitely lit a little fire under my ass, and something that I'm going to be able to use, moving into this new year, and really use it as a catalyst for my own future as well. So thank you for sharing that with me, man. It's absolutely
no problem. And you guys have to understand, who's listening and who's watching, I don't want to tell you these things, but it serves no purpose if I hold it in.
100%.
You said it lit a fire under your ass? Good. Was that my intention? No. Knowing that it did, it makes me feel better about sacrificing my coolness, showing my flaws, letting everybody know that I'm human, letting everybody know that I've been beat down. I've been at my lowest of low. I found a way to climb out of it, but hell, so can you.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
listen to this right now and you feel that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you need that jump start, you need that push, if you're dealing with adversity in yourself, man, you can do it. You can get it done. You have all of the tools and tangibles already available to you right now. You just got to, first of all, change your mindset. Mm-hmm. If it's becoming an athlete, if you don't know what being an athlete is, tap into UAB. We'll show you exactly how to identify, assess, process, and overcome adversity. Pandemic or no demic, it don't matter. Whatever it is that you're dealing with in your life, you can always fight back. You don't ever have to wave in the white flag. You don't have to throw it in. You ain't even got to flash it. You know, so sometimes when people get ready to throw that white flag in, the opposing team or the opposing force know they got you beat. Like, no, you ain't even got to wind it up good. Soon as it kind of show, they know they got you. But I want to let you know you got some fight left in you. Your time is yet to come. It ain't your time. If you don't feel like it's your time now, it hasn't gone. It isn't in the past. It's ahead of you.
Love it.
And all you got to do is tap in.
Yeah,
Juan, I want to say personally again, on behalf of both of us, really appreciate you coming on here, taking your time to share this information, this life experience. Like you said, not something you may not want to necessarily share, but you're more than happy to do it because it might impact somebody else's life. And I think that's one of the most powerful things to understand as a person, and I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, I want to give you the floor real quick before we wrap things up, and I know I have one question to ask you before we finish. Where can people find you? What are some of the new projects you're working on? You have the floor.
Okay, well, you guys can find me on social media platforms. My personal social media is WoodsFit. My business platform is The Ultimate Athlete Bootcamp. You can find us at woodsfit.com as well as theultimateathletebootcamp.com. Yeah, pretty much that's how you get a hold of me.
Love it. And last question, what's the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one sentence?
In one sentence, the biggest piece of advice. All of the power to change the position that you're in right now lies within your soul, your spirit right here. It is up to you in order to bring it out and exercise it to its best potential. Nobody else.
You guys heard it for DeJuan himself. We really appreciate you, my brother.
Yeah, you're a legend. Thank you. Thank you again.
Appreciate you guys.
Till next time,
Appreciate
everybody.
You guys.